Yes, guys, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boys David and Jacko today. Jacko back beside me, which is great to have my PIC, the partner in crime. Big news coming out of Tottenham today. One player out, one player in, aka James Maddison, and centre-backs to come, which excites me and excites a lot of you Spurs fans out there. Now, before we check in with Jacko and all of you guys out there in the chat, first of all, you guys know what you need to do for your boys. Make sure you smash that like button, share the stream out far and wide, tell people why they need to subscribe. And if you do enjoy the content we do here, make sure you engage with us in the chat. First of all, that is the first and foremost, most important thing to do. But also, the odd time, why not making a super chat to show your boys some love, or grab one of them channel memberships, which we are in the middle of revamping for all you guys. Plenty of interactive sort of content coming your way for next season. But Jacko, good to have you back, sir. How are you, my man?
It's good to be back, Dave. Spurs are kind of unrecognizable right now with how quickly they're moving, also getting in signings that I would say for the most part aren't that controversial or aren't really sort of, you would say for the most part, cheap signings. And they haven't even milked the Vicario signing at all. They haven't used, up that sort of juice. They could well have. We know in the past they definitely would sign a guy, probably try to get as much of the media out as they possibly can to, sort of sustain maybe the momentum behind it. But no, they're moving quickly. They bring in James Maddison, and looks like they're making moves on the center backs as well, which I think will really be sort of the best sort of news to bring through. But this James Maddison signing for me, Dave, I think it's sort of one that maybe gets Spurs fans, as you can tell by the chat right now and everything, excited again. It sort of is a signing that maybe starts to bring people back together again, because the Spurs fan base just felt very dismantled. It felt very sort of down, and it felt like there was really not a lot to get behind and a lot to be hopeful for. But now with this sort of signing like James Maddison, you all of a sudden see everybody feeling like we're cooking again and we're back. And we always kind of teeter and totter between those two states, between we're doomed and we're back. But it's starting to look like maybe we're more back than we're doomed at this moment in time with this signing. Big news.
Yeah, look, I think the Maddison signing will, surprise many that not many thought we would have the gumption to go after Maddison with any real conviction and get a signing like that in here. And it's one that maybe might turn a few heads and maybe look at this project a little bit differently and said, you know what, maybe there is a bit of intent behind it. Of course, one signing doesn't mean anything. You want to follow that up in other areas that we still need to sign in. But, I can't remember the last time we signed a player going into the prime of their career, up there with some of the best players in that position in the Premier League, according to his stats and stuff like that, So I haven't remembered a signing like that coming in the door in quite some time. So it really is a significant move, and it is one that Ange Postecoglou wanted done. So it's all positives there, Jacko. But look, let's go and welcome some people into the stream. Let's see who we've got with us today, and then we will crack on through the transfer news from today. The first one in the building is Jacob. Big up, Jacob. Hopefully you are keeping well, sir. Good to have you in, my man. Big up, Cara Simpson as well. Great to see you in the building. Mia, good to see you in the building. Hopefully you are keeping well. Also, get over and check out Mia's channel. Constantly out there doing content first thing in the morning. So if you are early birds, get over and check that out. And we also have Jazz Jones in the building. Big up, Jazz Jones. He says, big up, peeps, and everyone in the chat. We have Darren Caban. Big up, Darren. Hopefully you're keeping well. So good move on Maddison. But do we know anything on Van de Ven or another cheap purchase? We need top quality at the back. Do not worry, Darren. We will get into it. You will hear my thoughts on maybe why it's taking so long for the Tapsoba deal, but also my thoughts on Van de Ven as well. So stay tuned for that, my man. Carl Simpson also says, get the 2 or maybe 3 defenders in, and I will explode. Yeah. Also want another winger and midfielder. Look, the next ones in the door have to be centre-backs. Have to be. We need to. Once they get that done, I think a lot of fans will feel a bit more at ease with, going into next season. Rob Belcher says, at last we have some other than Harry who can pull the strings. James Maddison, you've been on our radar for years. Welcome to THFC. And that's the truth when it comes to this guy. We scouted him at Coventry. We missed the boat in 2016 when he moved to Norwich, and again in 2018 when he moved to Leicester for 20 million. So we finally got our hands on the guy that they've scouted for some time, which is good to see. And it's something that we've lacked since Christian Eriksen, Dele Alli, someone in that sort of mold. So it is something that this squad does need. Big up, Amir. Good to see you in the building. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. We've got Tyler in the house as well. Big up, Tyler. Great to see you in the building, my man. We also have Erin in from Watford. Big up. He's delighted with Maddison. We have Flat Cat Fangirl, Evening Jack and Dave and all in the chat. Finally exciting time for Spurs fans. That it is, my man. HMQ says Kane has to stay. Well, we'll have a little discussion on that, my man, because, you know, maybe the Maddison signing maybe makes people think a little bit differently on the Kane situation. That, you know, bring him to provide Kane makes us, you know, more of a threat. But, you know, the same still remains with Harry Kane and the contract. Ball being counter, big up, my man. Big up, Felix says Kane, Cooley's son and Maddie all together in a high-pressing, attacking team. Yeah, that gets me excited, my man. Hotspur J, big up. Good to see you in the building, brother. Who else have we got here? Mark Burke, he says, exciting times to be a Tottenham fan. How you doing, lads? We're doing all good, Marky. Hope you're keeping well, sir. Nick Carey says, I think the penny has dropped with Levy. Have to give him credit so far. If this continues, it could just be a window where problems are actually solved. I'll judge it after defense is fixed. Absolutely spot on.
A lot of people agree there, Nick.
And look, credit where credit's due on it, you know. Many people, would, as soon as the links came up, were saying never going to happen, this, that, and the other, and it has happened. So, you know, credit where credit is due. Tempest Fugit says, big up, guys. What a signing this is. It's a huge signing, my man. Big up, Luke Chapman as well. He's a Northampton Town fan, a secret Spurs fan. I know he is. Big up, DB. And he says, great job on the cheese room, Jack. Oh, big up, DB. Good to see you in the building, sir. We also have Iceman. Good evening, David. Jack, big up, Iceman. Big up, Scooter Reacts as well. He says, what a steal. Very good price for Maddison, by the way. I thought he'd command a lot more of a fee. Slim by Tubbs, evening, gentlemen. Great news with Maddison. Winks out is a big bonus. Keep up the great work, lads. Come on, you Spurs. I mean, look. We'll get on to that. I'm happy with that. Believe me, that made my day when Jack read it out on the podcast earlier. I felt like just, you know, going to the couch and lighting a big cigar and just not doing anything for the day. Big up Davey Woodford as well. He says, evening, gents. Great to see you in the building. Big up Tom81 as well. Stellars J in the building as well there. Big up Stellars J. Great to see you in the building, sir. Why is my thing gone absolutely crazy? I'm back again. Brilliant. A big up Jamie as well. Best Spurs channel on YouTube. Big up, lads, from Strafford. Joe, big up, Joe. Hopefully you're keeping well. Strafford not too far away from me, brother. So it's not. It's only about, I would say, a good 30 minutes in the car doing the speed limits. Not doing the speed limits, maybe 20. But I encourage everyone to do the speed limits. But Joe, if you're ever around in Newbridge, get in contact, my man. And then we'll meet up for a coffee, or if you like a pint, I'll buy you a pint. And now Winks is gone, and I'll have a Coke with ice. So big up, Joe. And we also have Paul Mark in the building. Steady the horses. Net deal is an average mid-table player for poor player plus 30 million. All the hype is that Maddison is English. Better options out there. Now, look, I'll be brutally honest. I would have preferred someone like Bruno Gonçalves. You know, that would have really, really whetted my appetite, really would have excited me. But, you know, I do have a bit of concerns over the Maddison deal. Like, you know, the Ange Postecoglou system, he's more than likely going to play in an 8. Now, James Maddison's work off the ball, not the greatest. So he's going to have to improve that. Plus, they were pining for the lifestyle, the Maddison family. Sometimes that can take you off your game. Bit of a concern over that. So I do have a few concerns around that, but they could be very easily put to bed after a few games. So let's wait and see what happens. I get what you're saying, Paul Mark. You know, I'm not gonna have a go at you over your judgment on players, because me and you think alike on a lot of these guys, so we do. And I think you have a great call when it comes to players and a great eye. I would say let's just give Maddison a little bit of a chance, because especially if Kane stays. You know, I've been looking into Maddison's stats today. You know, I think he's the second or third most highest in goals and assists over the last 2 seasons in the Premier League. I think outside of James Ward-Prowse and Messi, he's got some of the most, I think, scored the most free kicks. And I think there's a couple of other stats there that have impressed me. And in the Leicester relegated team, he finished with 10 goals and 9 assists, more than what some of our guys did. And we weren't even near the relegation zone. So, I mean, there are benefits to this deal. And plus, Paul Markey, I think you'll agree with me. I mean, for Maddison to come in and Winks to go out, I mean, it's what we've been calling for about 3-4 years, right? And it is an upgrade on that player. And I do think he walks into our first 11, to be fair to the guy. And he's an Ange sort of player, you know. He can play balls. He's got a good pass on him. I think he's also got third or fourth most shots in the Premier League as well, outside of Kane, Son, and someone else. So there's a lot to there's a lot in with this signing coming in that will improve us going forward. So I think there are some pluses to this deal. And look, I wasn't originally one that sat here and said, let's go after Maddison, let's get Maddison in. But doing more deep diving into it and some of the numbers over the course of a couple of seasons compared to others in the Premier League, he does stack up.
I know you never shy away from the hot opinion there, Paul Markey, and especially I know you'll air it out the moment that you feel like you have a controversial opinion lined up for us, and we appreciate it, my friend. And I feel like with James Maddison, at the end of the day, it is a massive upgrade. It's a huge upgrade on what we originally had, and I think what probably plenty of people will kind of ram home to death, really. But I think you have to say it, and you'll probably say it till the cows come home. But James Maddison will give Harry Kane sort of that relief of the creative burden. It's always been on Harry Kane to sort of get us out of trouble, to be able to play passes in behind, to pick up the ball from deep and sort of get us out of a funk, maybe with possession, or just sort of get things moving again. And now James Maddison can be that guy to do it. And Harry Kane can, of course, contribute to the creativity, but he doesn't have to feel like he's the only one that Spurs can really look to bring that sort of edge and bring that sort of that pass that no one else sees, or sort of that switch of play that no one else sees and whatnot, all those sort of kind of things. I just think that James Maddison, at the end of the day, he might not be your maybe perfect choice, Paul Markey, but I think he's sort of the signing that is a huge statement signing at the end of the day. And also he's a guy that's going to relieve a lot of what maybe we've been looking for in that creative midfield position. Maybe there are certain things we'll have question marks over, but I think he just checks most of the boxes, what we've been looking for. One of them being relieving that creative burden off of Harry Kane. Another one being free kicks. Now we have another free kick specialist. And I think a third one is we actually now do have a midfielder that sort of can grab the goals as well as grab the assists, because I think Bentancur and Højbjerg were basically outperforming what they've ever done in sort of their careers when it came to goals and assists. And that was one of the best sort of goal scoring, season we had ever seen from a midfielder in a Spurs shirt in kind of some time. So James Maddison's also going to be finally that guy to replace a Christian Eriksen, Dele Alli, maybe a goal scoring type midfielder that we haven't had in a while too.
Well, Paul Markey, let us know the feedback from our comments. Just let us know, my man. And good to see you in the building. But look, surely you got to admit, my man, Winksy out is a huge plus. But big up, Paul Markey. Good to see you in the building. Hopefully you are keeping well, my man. And then also, Mia W. Big up, Mia. It's great to have you guys back together. Who's Kyle and who's Jason? Happy Ange is getting players he wants. That is massive, in my opinion. In Ange, we trust. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Spurs. Kyle and Jason, what's that reference to, Jacko? Do we know?
Who's Kylie and who is Jason? TV show, maybe, Dave, that we're referencing on? Anybody in the chat here want to help us out here? We're playing a bit dumb today, but Mia, maybe this is a TV show that she's referencing.
Maybe. Look, I'll pick Kylie until we know. Look, Mia will follow up in the chat here and let us know any second now anyway. So do let us know what program it is, Mia. But look, as in Ange getting the players, I mean, look, there was concerns around the Vicario deal. Was it Paratici signed? Now, look, it had Paratici start written all over. But the fact is that Ange Postecoglou okayed the signing, and he went out his way to have a phone call with the guy to tell him exactly why he wants him in here, etc., etc. I mean, what was the quote? That he had a similar tough rise to him or something like that, and he reminds him of him. Absolutely brilliant, It gets him on an intimate basis from minute one. It makes Vicario want to come in here and do his utmost best to repay the faith. And also, although Tottenham have been tracking Maddison since the Coventry days, we've also heard that Ange has also given this the seal of approval. So I do think that maybe Ange has gone with them with a couple of targets on his own. But I also believe the club would have targets in mind as well and say, any of these take your fancy. And Ange would say yes on them. So, look, I think it is good. It is a positive that the manager wants to work with these signings, because you look what happened last year with Conte and Jed Spence, and it was unfair on Jed Spence, where the club and Conte were at loggerheads, where it was clear that a right wing back or a right back was wanted in here, right wing back, and that, Conte obviously wanted someone of Porro's standard, got someone of Spencer's standard. Then we had to re-go again in the January transfer window because he just refused to play him to get him what he actually wanted. So, with no more of this debacle going on, this, that, and the other, it's just good that the manager is okaying these players to come in here and that the manager wants to work with these guys coming in here, and it's another huge plus. It's something that's been aimed at the club for a number of years now, that they just bring in what they want and expect the manager to work with them, and it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you have to listen to managers and go, look, you hired me for a reason. In order for me to implement that, I need players here, here, and here, and here. What can we do? And, it does look like there is, so far, a good relationship between Ange and the board at this present moment, which is a plus. And long may it continue, because if it doesn't, we know there's only going to be one loser here, and that will be Ange Postecoglou. But we also knew when Ange Postecoglou was arriving, we were told, don't worry about him and the board. He'll get exactly what he needs or what he wants out of them. And for the club to go and get James Maddison, I think it's starting to look like that, Jacko.
Yeah, I think this is obviously an Ange signing, because we've been told lots of times, Mia, that Ange is absolutely not a yes man. And even though a lot of Spurs fans feel like maybe because he doesn't have the pedigree of sort of a Jose Mourinho or an Antonio Conte that he could be a yes man, but I think it's been very much rammed home to me by a lot of people that he is absolutely not. And he is not going to just sort of, bend over for anybody or, take anything easily when it comes to Daniel Levy or anything like that. So this James Maddison transfer, we know Ange Postecoglou is given approval of. We've heard that from everybody from basically the players in the squad right now to the coach to the board are all behind this transfer and have all really wanted James Maddison through the doors. That's a really good sign. But I think the other thing too is maybe the Vicario signing was more of a or more of an Ange Postecoglou signing, should I say, because kind of came out of nowhere. I think it was also a guy that maybe he did his research on once it was sort of presented to him by that Gabbanini guy. So it is good to see that maybe some of these transfers thus far do not seem like, players that he hasn't given his approval of, or ones that maybe have, come from underneath him or anything like that. So I'm happy to see that, these are signings that are improving us massively, but they're also ones that I do feel like Ange Postecoglou wants. Just quickly though, I feel like Dave, she's saying we're from Neighbours, so we're actually an Australian duo by the looks of things.
Yeah, Neighbours is an Australian TV program. It's a bit like what Emmerdale or Coronation Street would be over here in the UK. Look, I don't watch Neighbours or Home and Away, to be brutally honest. I do watch The Block and Australian programs like that, not Neighbours. But look, I don't know what I'm signing up for, but I'll take Kylie and I'll let Jack take Jason. Jack looks more like a Jason, so we'll let him have Jason and I'll be Kylie, and we won't discriminate. But look, big up, Mia. Really appreciate the support. Thanks for the bit of banter as well added into it. Please don't be alarmed that we don't watch Neighbours. We're just very, very busy boys. But look, I was watching
Vicario play for Empoli. I was watching back some Empoli games this weekend instead of, being cultured and watching, the good TV programs. I was watching back Vicario highlights, Mia. So shows, how much of a loser I am sometimes on these weekends, but really do appreciate it. And look forward to seeing this next Monday as well, Mia.
Yeah. And once again, do check out Mia's channel. Like I said, for all you early birds, that's the place to go. Spurs between the lines. So remember that when you're making your coffee in the mornings. But look, Jacko, I think we will crack on. We will get into the transfer news. It's what everyone's here for. They're sitting at home on IV drips going, feed me. I need the news. I need it. So, Jack, we better give it to them quickly. Now that we're getting into it, though, guys, if you could, you already know what you need to do. There's a lot more in here now than there was at the start. Smash that like button, share it out far and wide, smash the subscribe button if you are new, and welcome. Get your comments in, engage with us. There's two of us here today, so I'll be a lot better at bringing them up. But also, guys, why not every once in a while show your boys some love and make it a super chat? But look, Jacko, let's give them the news, my man.
We're going to give them the news just quickly. Stevie Frazier, hopefully you're keeping well, my friend. I saw you earlier in the podcast, and I know you left a comment, and hopefully, things do get a little bit better for you, my friend. But, with James Maddison being the big signing today, hopefully that brightens your day, and hopefully you're keeping well today. Thanks for tuning in, Stevie Frazier.
Big up, my man. Hope will be all okay, my man.
James Maddison here saying, James Maddison from Fabrizio Romano has given the here we go, everybody. James Maddison, Tottenham have now reached verbal agreement in place with Leicester to sign James Maddison. Here we go. Personal terms agreed. Deal ready for £40 million fee after talks advanced to the final stages yesterday night. Next steps are the medical test, documents being prepared, and then signed. And I've gotten some reports just now via Twitter, everybody, that it looks like he's completed the first parts of the medical test. Knowing this medical team, you can't always say that everything's going to be done quickly or anything's going to be done effectively, but it looks like he has done at least the first parts of the medical test thus far. Dave, I mean, it's moved quickly. Like, and maybe some people it hasn't, but we're really only so far into the transfer window. Spurs in the past would sign players after preseason, after
Yeah.
even often, maybe after a game or two into the actual regular season when the Premier League is kicked off. It just feels like I said, they didn't really dwell on the Vicario signing. They didn't milk it at all. They've gone for this James Maddison deal quite quickly. It is a big statement signing. It's also somebody that can convince Harry Kane maybe that we are a bit more serious than he could have expected. I don't know. Like I'm maybe more shocked that I'm not shocked that we actually did get James Maddison because we very much have been going after him. I'm just sort of shocked that it's happened maybe quicker than I imagined. I thought it would kind of be one of those sort of Jed Spence, Tomiyasu sort of kind of sagas for a whole summer, if you will.
Yeah, look, usually these deals notoriously in the past have sort of gone on for weeks on end, and sort of the excitement goes by the time it's announced. But look, the reason why Spurs have to act quickly, Jack, is the players that we're going in for, right? They're not commanding massive fees, but there are a lot of clubs interested. You look at Vicario, if Onana goes to Man United, Inter Milan wanted him to replace Onana. Napoli were looking for him to replace their goalkeeper. Mike Maignan was to leave AC Milan. They were looking at to bring Vicario in there. So, there was a lot of clubs interested in Vicario. So if you're going in for these players and you don't want to get into bidding wars, you don't want to pay massive amounts of money, you get in there, you get the deal done quick and you get it over the line. And that's what we've done with Vicario. And we've also done the same with Maddison. Now, look, with Maddison, I think the fact that Newcastle sort of cleared the way for us, and ended up going for Tonali, very good player from AC Milan, by the way. He'll unleash Bruno Gomes. It's even better, Bruno Gomes with Tonali in behind him. But, Newcastle cleared the way. Now, one thing I will say is Maddison is on huge wages coming into Tottenham. I believe it's 170k a week. So, he better live up to that. I hope it doesn't sort of diminish his work ethic or something like that. But, we got it for a good fee as well, Jack. I was expecting if you're going to get Maddison, okay, I know he had 1 year left on his contract, but I was still expecting maybe 70, 80 million pounds. But as well, you got to remember, Leicester have to sell quickly because they need to revamp their squad in the Championship. So they need cash resources to do that because they didn't have them last year. Once they sold Michael, they couldn't act and bring anybody in because the money just wasn't there. It dried up. So Leicester needed to get that done professionally and quickly so that they can start their plans and work for the Championship. So it worked out in our favour. So, it's a good job that we sort of worked with them and we got this over the line and we got it at a good fee. And look, he's coming in on colossal wages. It'll put him up there as one of the highest earners at the football club. Hopefully now he can live up to it.
I'm excited to see if he can actually build off of what he had at Leicester, because at Leicester, he was sort of the main man, seen as the big star at the club. Now he's going into the Spurs team, and kind of people like Paul Markey, people like yourself do have some question marks over his motivation. They have some question marks whether he's sort of gone for this move to have a bit more of a comfortable life and be able to, enjoy some of his grandeur, let's say, or enjoy some of his success and maybe in London and where his family and himself can be a bit happier. But also, this is an opportunity for James Maddison to actually take it to the next level where now you're going to be playing with even better players around you. You're going to be playing in front of an even larger fan base. You're also as well going to be competing for a team that does have maybe higher aspirations than maybe Leicester City do right now as well. That could all maybe be interesting to see how he handles that sort of pressure. I think it's a very different type of pressure to what Leicester City offered. And I think he has all the skill in the world. I don't think anybody would doubt that, and all the talent in the world. But does he have the mentality to be able to make this move to a different club and be able to live up to those sort of expectations? Because I think a lot of people are really excited about this, and a lot of people are absolutely giving him the benefit of the doubt, Dave. But you also have to just consider these sort of huge moves have gone wrong for Spurs in the past, even when they've made a lot of sense originally. They've gone wrong in the past. So can James Maddison break the mold? Can he break sort of the trend here where it's been that some of these bigger money signings haven't exactly gone right for us? Even Pedro Porro, I think, has gone pretty well, but there still were some question marks about his even thus far and whether that one's even going to work out. Richarlison's as well obviously has huge question marks.
Yeah.
You look at Tanguy Ndombele's, Gio Lo Celso's, and James Maddison is actually third time's the charm, really, when it comes to creative midfielders that we've actually tried to sign. We failed with Tanguy Ndombele. We failed with Gio Lo Celso, I guess James Maddison now is our third attempt at trying to bring in a creative midfielder that can actually relieve that burden off of Harry Kane. I think he can do it. I think he will live up to it, but it's definitely very different pastures, very different scenario, a very different setting for him. And we see if he can cope with it. It also could mean, though, with the fact that we have signed what is basically our number one target for what is this position, maybe Tanguy Ndombele and Gio Lo Celso really don't have much of a future here at all, because I feel like you have Harry Kane who can play sort of James Maddison's position. You have, if it's the number 10 position, you have Kulusevski who can potentially play there. You also have the number 8 position if James Maddison's playing deeper. Bentancur, Basuma, Højbjerg, Papa Matasar, they can all play a bit deeper and play kind of in different positions in midfield. So I'm curious if Lo Celso and Tanguy Ndombele even have any future at all with this signing too.
Look, it's a big move, Jacko. I think, look, the first year on the motivation was, I think it'll be there. You've got Euros in Germany at the end of the summer, and I think he fancies coming in here, and using Kane as the catalyst for him to get into the England squad, but more or less get into the starting lineup, because he's sort of on the periphery of that. So it's an absolute great move for Maddison, and I think, the motivation will definitely be there for the first season. And, once you have that and you hit the ground running, it's a good thing. However, if Kane leaves, does that change Maddison's belief or motivation that he can still get into that England squad or still make that England squad? Will he be deflated for the first while because he doesn't have someone like Kane there to feed? Be an interesting scenario. However, look, Maddison is a quality is excites me that you have him sort of feeding someone like Harry Kane. Now the big question is can we keep hold of Kane? Because if we can keep hold of Kane, Jack, and we can get him tied down to a new contract, this team can go places once we get in a couple of centre-backs. It can get back up there. It can get back up there challenging for top 4 and stuff like that. And I suppose right now, with some of the signings we're making, some of the signings that we're told are due to come in the door, if you keep Kane, you have a much better chance of that rebuild taking less time than what it would with Harry Kane. So it'd be interesting to know what sort of dream Maddison was sold. Does he know whether he's signing on the dotted line, knowing that Kane's leaving, or signing on the dotted line, being told that Kane's staying? It'd be very interesting to know that. But look, let's wait and see with this guy. He's got he's coming with a big reputation. His stats are all up there with some of the best in the league. So, hopefully he can improve us going forward. And it just means, you might get a little bit more out of Son in terms of goals, because you're not always looking for him to create. If Kane can get back to scoring goals, you've got Kulu the other side, and he can make them runs, and James Maddison can find them. It just adds a new dimension to our attacking game, because for the last few years it's been very rigid, down the sides, get crosses in the box, sort of hipping it up. Well, now that you've got James Maddison there, you can get your players to make runs off the shoulders of the defenders at different angles and that. And you've got someone like Maddison with that passing ability that can just clip it in behind for them. It adds a new dimension for attack, which will also bring, renewed optimism for some of these attacking players, that it's not the same attacking patterns. They have a bit more freedom now in their attacking movements and stuff like that, because you got someone like James Maddison behind them. So it'd be interesting to see how much the others thrive as well, not just as much as Harry Kane if we keep him. But now I would urge Tottenham Hotspur, now that you've got this guy in, don't deflate us by at the end of the window or this window letting go of Harry Kane. Keep Harry Kane. It makes the Maddison signing even better.
I even think you got to sign more center backs too for us to really all start getting, over the moon. Because right now I'm satisfied. Right now I'm excited by how quickly we've been moving. I'm excited that we've even gotten this deal negotiated down. Like, we didn't just give in to the initial price tag and everything, but we still got our number one target. That feels good. Sort of feels like we can. Maybe the trend with the David Raya, we were worried that, we said, is Levy back to his old tricks when it came to the David Raya situation and going after Vicario. But now that we've gotten our number one target in James Maddison, that probably has proven not to be the case, that it's exactly. I mean, Levy, of course, is still going to be using his typical, principles and his typical negotiation tactics and everything. But at the same time, these are sort of maybe atypical Levy type things where he's moving quickly again, and he's also going after number one targets without spending too much time looking at other areas. I don't know. It's exciting. I also feel like Maddison is exactly what Postecoglou wants, because he's a risk taker with how he sort of plays passes. He's not a guy, like you said, that's just going to pass it sideways to get, his numbers up or anything. He will play that through ball. If he sees an inch of space, he will try to have a crack from distance if he thinks that he has a chance, and he will take risks on it. And that's exactly what we've been looking for at times when Spurs have been looking really passive on the ball. So I'm excited for this transfer, and I'm also excited to see if he's somebody that could, like you said, convince Harry Kane that maybe we're a bit more serious than he would have expected. But also he could have been sold the dream that if maybe Harry Kane were to leave, he could be the new face sort of this Tottenham team, which I don't want to think about it that way, but there's also that scenario as well, for sure.
100%. 100%. Everyone in the chat, let us know what your thoughts are on Maddison. You don't seem excited. You seem a bit quiet to me today, peeps. Come on, get your thoughts in on James Maddison. Why not make them stand out, Jacko? But let's keep this show on the road, my man.
Phil Coy's member for 10 months as a fan show member. He says, Maddison, Tapsoba, and Micky van de Ven, good windows so far. So good. Of course, we haven't gotten one of those center backs over the line, Phil, but for me, Tapsoba is sort of my dream signing this window. As much as I love this James Maddison signing, because I think it's bringing the fan base back together again. It's getting us excited. It's getting us sort of optimistic. It's getting us happy clapping again. Let's be fair, this James Maddison signing, but the Tapsoba one for me, Phil, is definitely the dream signing. And David and I actually spoke about that a while back, I think in one of sort of the members videos on the podcast about what our dream signings would be. And they both were center backs. And that's probably not a surprise to many people. I imagine a lot of your guys' dream signing this summer would be a center back as well. But James Maddison, Vicario, I'm liking it so far. It looks like Spurs are serious. It looks like Spurs are also not doing anything without any sort of thought or any sort of preparation. I mean, these seem sort of like thought out, executed sort of signings as well. I'm excited.
Spot on.
Big up,
Spot
Phil.
on. We'll take a few comments. Let's see what some of the people in the chat are saying about James Maddison, and then we will move on. Ian Ferguson, big up. He says, I can't believe we actually picked him up. Not my first choice, but I'm far from complaining. Absolutely spot on, my man. Big up, Ian. Good to see you in the building. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. Checkmate 734 says, don't bother about this Kane debate. Spurs fans are split on this just like they are on every topic about this club. If he leaves on a free, then the club and fans can reap the whirlwind. Look, we'll never agree eye to eye on anything. Zoo says, no, Ndombele, I followed every Napoli game because of Kim Min-jae, and Ndombele, it was still terrible. Thank you for that insight. I appreciate that. Who else have we got? We've got Daniel Harris. He says, best signing in 10 years. Big up, Daniel, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. I have a cousin named Daniel Harris, but I know it's not you. Let me know where you're from, buddy. Let me know where you're from. There seems to be Harrises popping up all over the world. I'm a Harris too, my man. I'm a Harris too. Who else have we got here? Derek Smith says, I'm surprised we got Maddison. Really don't think we get this deal done. A great signing. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, this is a signing that plenty of people would have maybe doubted Spurs to have gotten done in the middle of this season. Also a signing that some people have said, I guess, if Leicester weren't even relegated, would we have even signed him? Maybe there would have been a bigger price tag that they would have asked for, but I don't think Spurs would have ruled themselves out of the race. I think James Maddison still could have gone to any club that was interested in him, but it looked like Spurs were the one that were pushing the hardest for him. It's also the case that I think a lot of other teams kind of have the creative midfield sort of position for the most part filled. And so do they need a James Maddison is the case. And only so many teams probably did need James Maddison. And we happen to be one of them. So we were probably lucky that way as well.
Interesting. So look, that's good that James Maddison is over the line. And we can now move on to other targets. Big yourself up. Daniel's getting back saying he's from Essex. Grandparents from Tottenham. Big up, my man. You know, my dad was, around Tottenham, and then, how old are you? Let me know. My old lad, used to be around Tottenham. I don't know what's going on here. I'm only messing up. Big up, Daniel. But Jacko, let's keep moving, my man. More exciting news to come.
Micky van de Ven here. Exclusive has come from Fabrizio Romano. Tottenham have opened direct talks with Wolfsburg for Micky van de Ven. The Dutch center back is among the top targets. Verbal proposal is set to be submitted as Van de Ven is keen on the move. Edmund Tapsoba does remain among the options on the Spurs list. on the Spurs list, but he's more expensive. That last line there, I don't know what that means. Is it just the fact that he is expensive, or is it that we're choosing between Micky van de Ven and Edmund Tapsoba? I really do hope it's both. I would be disappointed if it ended up being that we went for Micky van de Ven, because while I think he's a very talented center back and a very talented defender, I don't exactly see him as the perfect left-sided center back option. I see Tapsoba as more of the perfect left-sided center back option to partner Romero. I see Van de Ven as that really good left back that we've been maybe looking for to compete with Udogie, as well as be a different option to the likes of Udogie, because Ben Davies, we don't really rate in a back four. We don't rate him in the left back position. Sergio Reguilon, as much as we root for the guy, doesn't really look like he has much of a future here. There's no real signs indicating that he's going to have a spot in this team. And then you also look at other players like Sessegnon, don't have much of a future as well. I feel like maybe Micky van de Ven could be that sort of left back signing that we could need to help compete with the likes of Udogie, Dave.
Yeah, of course, Jacko. I mean, Van de Ven, he can play left back and centre back. But look, I worry about him as a centre back, Jack, actually, if you want me to be brutally honest, because when you go and look into his stats around his aerial ability, not great. He's one of them where he sort of lets the ball bounces and stuff like that. You know, this guy's a big guy, 6'2", 6'4". So I was very surprised to find out how weak he is in the air. If you go, but even if you want to go and look at a lot of his highlight reels, you struggle to find anything where he's sort of good in the air or where you see him winning the ball in the air, because it's one of his real weaknesses. But also in defensive stats, he doesn't really sort of, rate amongst the best in them either. I think they're all fairly low as well. But one thing this guy is good at, and he's different to Romero, is because he likes to stay on his feet. He likes to sort of read the time and get the tackles in, and he doesn't even go to the ground to make the tackles. A lot of it is on his feet. I think he backs his strength and his power. Look, I really like this guy, Jacko. I had my doubts because I thought when I looked at him, I was like, the Jurgen Klopp player all over. Could be a long-term replacement for someone like Andy Robertson there at left back. Because look, I think we've all seen the highlight reel of him making up them yards to get back to the goal line and get clearance in. I mean, I remember me, you, and Jerome were looking at earlier on before the podcast, and I joked saying he could be a gold medalist, Olympic sprinter, absolutely rapid. But the biggest plus you are getting with this guy is how good he is on the ball. He's absolutely brilliant. And actually, he reminds me a lot of Jan Vertonghen, the way he sort of moves, just with a lot more pace. So I think, look, this guy would be a very good signing, but I wouldn't be so quick to suggest that it would be at centre-back. I think I'd be with you, Jack. I think it would be more of a left-back signing. And I think the reason why this one is probably more along the line than the Tapsoba one is, Jack, is because I remember there was reports came out last week saying that Tapsoba they were talking in around 25 million. I was like, hang on, that's not right. You've got a guy 24 going into prime years. He's got 3 years left on his contract. Bullshit. Don't believe in the 25 million fee. And I actually think that is what is holding up the Tapsoba deal, is that fee. And I did say this, remember the last one we done together, Jack? I said that I do feel like the fee could be what sort of hinders this, holds it up, or what could make it take, a bit of a longer time to do. Because realistically, in Leverkusen, they can sort of charge what they want for this guy. There's 3 years on the contract. They're not in a rush to sell. So I'm not surprised to be seeing this one get done. And I also see a lot of Sven Botman at Newcastle in this guy as well. And it's not only because they're Dutch, but they're big guys, strong guys, can both play. For me, I like this signing, and it really would excite me. I can't wait. Hopefully we do get this guy in the door. There's a lot about him I like. But early in the Premier League, he's going to have to improve on that straight away, Jacko, because that's already one of our biggest weaknesses, set pieces into the box, this, that, and the other. So you're like, that's something that Tapsoba would help you out with, because that's one of his main strengths, is in the air, very good at heading. Whereas this guy really is weak in that. And you look at a lot of the strikers around the Premier League, they're big guys. Someone like Mitrovic should just bowl him over, and that is a bit of a problem for me. So he does have bits to work on. I don't want anyone to think that this guy is coming here and he's the finished article, because he's not. There's a lot more he has to learn on the defensive side of his game.
I think when you're talking about, I don't think Tapsoba is necessarily the finished article because he's still so young. But if we are going for more of a guy that, if we're going for a guy that checks all the boxes, Dave, I think it's Tapsoba. I don't think Van de Ven checks all the boxes for what we can assure what we need from that left-sided center back to partner Romero. At the same time, though, we have said, Dave, we need a lot of center backs, and we also need guys that are maybe capable / willing to take a different role. They might not play the ideal left-sided center back role. They might play on the bench. They might play left back like he could be coming in for. So there's that to consider as well. And if Van de Ven has been sold, the position that, listen, you might play as a backup left-sided center back in case Tapsoba or another player isn't available. You might play as a left back, but we see you as a promising talent and a promising defender for the future, and we want you to develop here at Spurs. That could have been maybe what he was sold. Whereas I think Tapsoba is more that guy that they actually think comes into the team straight away and solves a lot of our problems straight away without needing to wait for him to develop or anything like that. I think Van de Ven is more of a talent that you bring in to kind of, he already has exceptional qualities, but you also are kind of bringing him in to maybe develop a bit more because, like you said, maybe less of the finished article, kind of like a Tapsoba, or less well-rounded, I would say, like a Tapsoba is too. But I still think that if we were to get the pair of them, what a coup. I mean, that is a real duo signing that makes a lot of sense as well. Like, it makes a lot of sense.
I did read something there last week, Jack, where it said that we're expecting one sort of relatively known centre back and one that's maybe not as well known, a bit cheaper, but well scouted. So Micky van de Ven probably is looking like he's going to be maybe the lesser known, bit more scouted sort of guy. And then someone like Tapsoba or another person will probably be one of the main centre backs coming in here. But all in all, this signing excites me. There's a lot about this kid that excites me, a lot in his game that excites me. But there's a couple of things that concern me that he will have to improve on in the Premier League. But I think the biggest thing is that high defensive line. You see how Kyle Walker gets Man City out of a lot of trouble and has done over the years with that pace. This guy can do the exact same for Tottenham Hotspur. So all in all, get this guy in. Really like him. Really excites me.
We have Ian Cook here with a super chat and a super sticker, and it's the guy's basically wiping his eyes and making sure that he's seeing what's in front of him here, Dave. He's saying, "Wow," and I think that's how a lot of Spurs fans feel. I said this on the podcast, Ian. It's like sort of maybe if it I have to wait till we get the Tapsoba deal done or some other huge center back comes through over the line. But once that happens, and if that happens quickly, I really will have to pinch myself to make sure I'm not in some dream that, I'm a Chelsea fan or something like that, because this just isn't Spurs. Like, this isn't how Spurs normally operate. We usually get signings, even if we operated quickly, we have always the tendency to get the scouting wrong, to get the signing wrong. And from the most part, a lot of the scouting checks out, even if it's not always our first choice. Sort of the logic seems to be there for what we've been going after. And even the lists of players that we've been going after for the most part seem to make sense. And I kind of like how we just seem to have a lot of options that I, for the most part, would be kind of happy with, even if they're not always my first choices or anything. And I don't know, this is exciting to see how Spurs are being linked to what seems like the right players, but also as well, we're moving quicker than we usually do too. It's I'm happy to see this, Ian, and I'm not surprised that you're surprised.
No, and look, it's good to create some proper competition in this squad rather than, certain players who are good enough and then players who just should never have been paid to play football in their lifetime. So, it's good that we're creating competition, and we need to create competition in that area. And, the idea is that you have two centre-backs out there who are established, and then you have a couple of up-and-coming centre-backs who are young and hungry and keep the guys in front of them honest. It's all we want. So, bringing in Micky van de Ven, I think could be a Ben Davies replacement. Look, I wouldn't 100%, say that I wouldn't 100% say that is what's going to happen. But when you look at it, Ben Davies sort of backup left back, sort of / left-sided centre back, if people rate him that highly. For me, Van de Ven, he doubles up. He does exactly what Davies does. He can play centre back, in a back four, and left back. So for me, makes sense. Bring this guy in, because for too long now, when we've had to rotate players or players have had to come in because of injuries, the drop off in quality is just hurtful for my eyes, painful for my head, and I just can't do it any longer with some of them Muppets. So, it's good to see that we're moving in the right direction. We're actually getting in players that are actually technically good. I could not believe what I've been seeing the last 3 to 4 years, how many times players are taking the time to get the ball under control. I mean, Jesus Christ, when I went training on a Tuesday and Thursday night, even in the pissings of rain, if I didn't get that under control the first time, the manager just come over and be like, well, I mean, Dave, how do you expect to start a team if you can't do the basics? And then I watched Tottenham, Premier League, and I'm told elite level, some of these guys, they're they're the best of their generation, this, that, and the other. Bollocks. Put me in a one-on-one with Dier, and I'll absolutely spin that fucker all day long. And it's just glad to see that now we're getting guys in, so there's no more excuses for some of these donkeys, and we can just shift them out.
No more excuses. A lot of people see Micky van de Ven as the next Jan Vertonghen, and that's good signs. Then that's exactly what we need is a Jan Vertonghen replacement, and he is also, I guess, a Ben Davies replacement, but in the very good sense, not like Ben Davies was somebody that we're going to be missing, but he, like Dave said, sort of operates in that hybrid left back, center back position, which is useful, very useful indeed. Big yourself up, Ian.
Could it also just quickly maybe signal the end of someone like Harvey White, who's could have played left back, centre mid, 1 year left on his contract. Interested. But look, Jacko, let's keep it moving, my man.
And then Paul Markey as well says thoughts on the Juve reported interest in Christian Romero. Paul Markey, my friend, I'm not sure when you're leaving, but we have already a slide and everything prepared on that. I do have everything set to go on that. We will have a discussion on it. And I believe it came from a Argentinian sort of journalist. He's an insider on the Argentinian national team. His name is Gaston Adul. And I guess he's reported that Juventus basically are interested in Romero, and we'll see how much they'd be willing to pay for the guy. I guess they want him back. They want the return fee. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Laughable. They're the ones that load him out to Atlanta in the first place. They're the ones that helped us get the deal over to Tottenham in the first place. So, I mean, if I was Romero, I wouldn't be in a hurry to scurry back there. You know what I mean? I'd rather stay at Tottenham knowing that they let him go in the first place. And he even sort of helped, in the deal to get him here as well. That's how badly they wanted to offload him. So,
lots of Clement Longley news. Dave.
Just quickly, Jacko, before we move on, there was Phil Coy's member for 10 months. Big up, Phil. Hopefully you're enjoying Croatia, brother. And he says, Maddison, Tapsoba, and Micky van de Ven. It's a good window so far. So good.
Yeah, I mean, we read
it's
that.
A great start. It's an absolute great start, Phil. That's what I would say. Now let's back it up. 2 or 3 is not enough. If we want to be serious about this and we want to get more of that shit out of the squad without any excuses, simple answer is keep signing players. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think 1 or 2 of the prospects that's been around Tottenham for quite a while, I think 1 or 2 of them might make the squad and create a bit of competition. But let's keep signing so we can get more of these guys out. So at least when we go into cup games, we can be a bit relaxed, even if Ange Postecoglou wants to change the team, not sit there and go before the game going, oh, Dier and Sanchez centre-back, Davies left-back, well, we're losing. And then people go to me, Dave, have a bit of faith. And I go, I don't need to because I know what's going to happen. And then it actually happens. So thank God now we don't want any more of that. We just want to win. So, get these guys gone. Get more in. Big up.
A lot of Clement Longley news here, everybody, and we'll kind of zip on through it, but it is important. And this has come from Dan Kilpatrick of the Evening Standard, saying they're in the market for a center back, with talks continuing for Bayer Leverkusen's Edmund Tapsoba and interest in re-signing Clement Longley, who spent last season on loan from Barcelona. But then you kind of go further, there's sort of kind of conflicting news, you could say here, because Fabrizio Romano has also said that he understands that Tottenham are not advancing on Clement Longley deal, with Barca yet seeing him as the priority, focusing on new center back with Edmund Tapsoba and Micky van de Ven. Options revealed here days ago, plus 1 more decision to be made after completing the James Maddison deal. More Clement Longley news came from also the Daily Mail. They said, I think it was from Luke Power in an article, he said, it is understood that Tottenham's new focus is on 3 main center back targets, but Clement Longley isn't one of them. They are Bayer Leverkusen's Edmund Tapsoba, Wolfsburg's Micky van de Ven, and Tosin Adarabioyo from Fulham. So lots of news kind of on Longley and his future, about whether he actually is going to be a Spurs center back. You and I have said he can't sign 4 as much as we want to. We want to sign 4 50 million pound center backs. it's just not really realistic for Spurs. It's also not really realistic for those type of players. A lot of players want to start. They want to get real minutes. You have to figure out which players you can sort of sell the opportunity to be sort of more of a rotation type player and be more of a guy that you can use from time to time to give players rest. And you can also sell the role that, you're a starter, but like not everybody can really be a starter, and not everybody's going to get those sort of minutes, especially when you don't even have European football to offer as well. The minutes are very limited now, and the squad is going to have to be a bit smaller too. So I think Clement Longley, for all those reasons, is sort of a more realistic kind of option to maybe have as a backup if he's willing to be a backup. I don't really believe that he's going to command the wages that if he wants 150,000 or whatever his wages are. I don't think Spurs are going to pay that for backup options. So if he were to come in for the reported 5 million or whatever it might be, I don't see Spurs paying, nearly as much as he is on those wages over at Barcelona. So I don't think we have to worry about that, because that would just seem silly to give a guy who's sitting on the bench more money than what you would be paying your starting center backs. Like, Tapsoba probably will come in here and won't even be on 150, 160 grand a week. And if Longley were all of a sudden on more money than he is, then that wouldn't really make any sense for the squad dynamic. But for a cheap signing, for a guy that showed as well that he's very good on the ball and is good in progressive system in the ball, I think Longley is actually a realistic choice. I understand he has a lot of, concerns over his defensive ability, and he's made plenty of mistakes and has contributed to plenty of the goals that we've conceded. I still will, kind of stand on the, on the mountain, or stand on, my ground, and the fact that Longley is a better defender than Eric Dier. He's a better defender than Davinson Sanchez, and he's a better defender than Ben Davies. Maybe that's not saying much, but at the end of the day, I think he is. And he's also as well much better on the ball than all of them. And what we need is a guy who's willing to take this sort of backup role option. And for 3 or 4 million, 5 million, I don't see him as actually that silly of a guy to bring in here. I understand why people just want to go elsewhere. They just want something different. They feel like they've seen enough of Longley, but I don't know. I'm more for it than other people are, but I'm happy if we promote a guy from the academy. I'm also happy if we went after a homegrown talent too, because we do need a lot of homegrown center backs to be coming through as well.
So it's hard to know from this report though, Jacko, if we're going to be signing 3 centre backs, or are we going to be signing 2, but we've got 3 targets to go after. It's sort of hard to know here. If we're going for, if they're the 3 centre backs we're looking to bring in, and we're bringing in 3, okay, I can understand why they're turning their attentions away from Langley. However, if they're looking at bringing in 2 out of them 3, for me, it makes sense. Bring in Langley on that 5 million. Like you said, he's going to be on a lot less wages than what he would at Barcelona. And, I echo what you say, that he's better on the ball. So if you are going to bring in a Tapsoba and a Micky van de Ven, why not bring in Langley? That means you can clear out Dier, Rodin, Tanganga, Sanchez, and Davies. And then you'll have Romero and Darrington already at the club. So there's 5 options. It's absolutely perfect. And there are 5 options that excite me. Not the 5 options that we're used to seeing that's consistently shit. So for me, I do think, if you're only bringing in 2, you got to bring in Langley. However, if they're bringing in all 3 of them, I like all 3 of them. Like even Adarabeo, like when I've gone and looked into the guy, he's very good on the ball. One of his biggest assets is that he can unlock the defense, the opposition's defense, from centre back. He's got a really good pass on him. So I can and he's strong, powerful, quick as well, and good in the air. So if they're looking at bringing in all 3 and he's the 3rd choice, okay, I'll be happy with that. But on Tapsoba though, Jacko, look, 25 million, like I stated the last time when they said that, it was too low. I reckon it'll be about 40, 50 million, right? But if you go and look at his stats and actually compare them to Gvardiol, there's actually not that much difference, and Gvardiol would command double the price. So for me, I actually think even if it is 40, 50 million, it's money well spent.
I think Tapsoba's just been a secret. I think he's been, like I've said, Bruno Guimaraes, I think, was a huge secret in the past, where he was, I think, putting out some of the best numbers of any central midfielder in Europe, but just really wasn't being spoken about enough, or really hadn't been given that chance to sort of be put in the limelight, to show his stuff. And I think Tapsoba is a similar player. He's actually been in the Bundesliga longer than even Gvardiol has, if I'm not mistaken. I think Gvardiol's only been in the Bundesliga the past 2 seasons. This was his 2nd season, if I'm not mistaken, whereas Tapsoba's been there at least 3 or 4. And also when he was playing for Peter Bosch, I think in one of his first seasons at Bayer Leverkusen, he was like one of the best one of the best passers in Europe, I think, according to Football Ref or according to FB Ref. So I think Tapsoba has been kind of a bit of a secret diamond, or kind of a diamond under the rough, or whatever it is, this whole time. And I think it could be one of the best signings in a long, long, long time for Spurs, because I think we're signing, like you said, a guy that compares well with almost every other center back in the Bundesliga. He's one of the best they have to offer. And he's also, I think, young enough you could say that he could be one of the next best center backs in the world. And for us to sign him for anything less than, I think, 60 or 70 million would be a huge steal. I think he's worth just as much as what we maybe were willing to pay for Bastoni. I think Bastoni, we were considering throwing around 60 million or something at Inter Milan to get him in. I think Tapsoba's more worth 60 million than even Bastoni is. And I think Bastoni is a brilliant player. Don't get me wrong, but Tapsoba, I think, is the whole package. I really do. And I think he's been secretly the whole package for a long time.
Yeah. I'd encourage everyone to go and check out his stats. You're getting a player on this very similar levels to Gavardio, half the price. And this is one that Tottenham could get done. Just quickly, someone put something in the comments, and he's correct. Expectation is Eric Dier will stay at Tottenham this summer, but he's focused on next season for Spurs, and that's from Charlie Echoshare. I mean, that's an absolute fucking piss take.
It's a blow. It's a blow.
We knew it was coming. They were softening us up for it with the injury reports, putting them out there 2 weeks early before Andrew's even arriving, doing stupid exercises and stuff like that. That's pissed me off. You're just asking for trouble again. If people think this guy's going to be any different under Andrew, you're mistaken. Sadly mistaken.
It's a huge blow. I guess more to come from it. I guess we'll find out, but it's maybe just the fact that Eric Dier wants to stay. Whether Spurs will allow him to stay could be another question. And you hope that's the case, is that there's a big difference between Eric Dier saying he wants to stay versus Spurs actually allowing him to stay. And we spoke about this too. And as well, that's actually, again, for anybody that's a member, I think you can check it out. We spoke about it with Jerome. Which contracts are they actually prepared to rip up? Because they said they're going to rip up contracts, but who? Whose contracts are they going to be ripping up? Because we all want them to rip up the contracts of Eric Dier, a Ben Davies, a Sanchez, those sort of guys. But are they going to actually do it? And that's the question. And I think Eric Dier is the real question. I think he's the player that we all want to see his contract ripped up for. I don't know how much money we would actually get from him. Like you've always said in the past, Dave, we've only really paid $5 million to bring him in here for the first place. He's been here for nearly a decade. We've gotten gotten as much out of him as we possibly can. So it's just time to let him go, rip up the contract. There must be not that much money that you're really sacrificing. Just let him go. But it does seem like he's, one of those ones that will be hard to get rid of. Potentially hard to get rid of, because he's going to be kicking and screaming kind of thing, trying.
It just completely demotivates me, completely pisses me off, completely takes the light off the Maddison deal. And I know people are going to say, Dave, you're overreacting. I'm not. I hear this every season with this guy. Oh, but what about this? What about that?
You wanted him gone last summer.
He lets you down. The biggest thing is when the push comes to shove, that's where Dier lets you down spectacularly the most. And it's just going to continue on, because if someone gets injured, who steps in? Eric fucking Dier. And this is a guy that's complained about needing 10, 11 games on the trot just to get going. I mean, what excuse he's going to make when he fucks up when he comes in. I don't care whether Ange Postecoglou is in charge or not. I'm fully behind Ange. But no one's going to sit here and tell me that Ange is going to turn Eric Dier around. This guy has had a chance at centre mid and centre back. And somehow we're still keeping it. But I had that feeling, Jack. I said it to you. We were being softened up for it. We were being prepared for it. And they choose now to sort of let it seep out there while the good news is out there, while Dave's in good vibes. I'm pissed off hearing that now, completely pissed off, because he's just going to let you down. He's just going to let you down. Even if the majority of the squad do the majority of work, and then we get an injury and he's thrust in there into a semi-final or a big game for top four or a Europa League or whatever it may be, you're going to let you down. And that's the problem. Even if it's just one game, it's one game too many. One game more than what you should be playing at Tottenham Hotspur. You
had to convince everybody last season that we needed to get rid of him, Dave, and it's it's going to be painful to see if this actually has any legs to it. But of course, this is just one report, and it could also just be Eric Dier's PR machine going to Charlie Eccleshare and saying, "Hey, like help us, try to convince him, to stay, or help us, try to convince the fan base that Eric Dier is worth keeping." There's always that to consider too. So I would just say, something to report upon, but maybe, let's not get too behind it yet, or at least let's just be hopeful that there's nothing behind it. Dark Sun G, good to see you, my friend. He says, can't wait for Maddison to hold up the shirt, 2 to 3 center backs as soon as possible. With this news on Eric Dier, those center backs need to come in as soon as possible, sooner than they already were, Dark Sun G, because I think an Edmund Tapsoba, here we go, or an Edmund Tapsoba sort of push or any sort of extra news on that definitely would brighten the mood when it comes to any sort of Eric Dier renewal. But I'm really excited to see that the center backs we've been linked to, or at least people that I've been speaking about for a fair amount of time, Dark Side G, and people that it seems like the majority of the fan base are behind for the future of these center backs. So I'm excited about that. And then Maddison, what shirt is he going to wear? Is it going to be a 17? I think that's Christian Romero's. An 18, I forget who wears number 18, but an 11, that's Brian Hills. I'm not sure what number he's going to be wearing. That'll be interesting. And number 8 is going to be taken by Basuma. So be curious to see what shirt Maddison's going to be taking.
Be interested to see what number he takes up. I mean, we didn't want to take the number 1 off Hugo Lloris to give it to Vicario. So he ended up taking the same number he was at Empoli.
A lot of shirt renewals.
Excited by the Maddison one, but it's being counteracted by the Dier news. So, look, Dark Sun G, get in 3 centre backs. Keep that guy furthest away from the team as possible. Absolute furthest away from the team as possible, because it's just strained me. But you're right, we do need centre backs in here. Hopefully they come, because if we can keep clean sheets, it keeps us in games. And once you're in games, you always have a chance of getting points. So that's the main thing. That defence, goalkeeper, the amount of goals we conceded on a whole last year was our Achilles heel. It's what held us back, and that needs to be improved. I'm glad we've got in a Cam, sort of that midfielder of Madison's sort of mould. We needed that. I'm glad we got in a goalkeeper. We needed that. But now let's focus on a real problem area. It's got to be centre backs in next.
Harry Kane news, and I think it's sort of in the same position as it was yesterday. Bayern have decided to improve their bid, though, from yesterday. It's an exclusive from Ben Jacobs over at CBS, and he says that he understands that Bayern are to test Daniel Levy's resolve with an improved offer of around £80 million, all in for Harry Kane. Spurs' position remains that they will reject any bids received. It's really just a test of whether Spurs are kind of, are going to stick to their word on this one, because they did say that they pretty much will swat away and deflect any sort of bid that comes in here, especially anything that was below 100 million. We were told they weren't even going to even consider, even pick up the phone to. But Bayern Munich, I'm not sure if this is, has legs to it, because the German press really need this to happen, and they need a guy like Harry Kane to come over to the Bundesliga, or if there really is actual legs to this. And if Harry Kane has indicated to them that he'd be happy to move there, I'm not sure if he probably meant he's happy to move there this summer versus happy to move there maybe like a next summer. But I don't know. It's Harry Kane. I don't think the situation's changed much, other than really Bayern Munich have decided to improve their offer. I feel like it's still an offer that's well below what Spurs would accept. But at the same time, I'm only saying that because Spurs have told us, I guess, this summer that they wouldn't accept an offer that's below that number. So I'm curious to see whether they kind of stick to their word on the Harry Kane saga, because if it gets above 100 million, then I'll start to really get nervous here. I really will start to get nervous. And it already feels like we have so much that needs to be solved this summer. I mean, Tapsoba, Maddison, a Van de Ven, as well as a Vicario. If we were to get 4 signings in like that, I start to think that we're cooking again. I start to think that Spurs are back. We then sell Harry Kane. That kind of also deflates me again, where I just sort of am left thinking, now we have a huge amount that, ahead of us that we need to still do. Whereas if we kept Harry Kane, brought in a Van de Ven, brought in a Tapsoba, brought in Vicario, all these other guys, I start to think that Spurs are cooking again. But you sell Harry Kane, you're left with even more to do. You're left with an even bigger mountain to climb when it comes to this huge rebuild that we're already undergoing. And this rebuild is going, I mean, we're not even a fraction of the way through, but, good signs thus far on this rebuild. you sell Harry Kane, in my eyes, I think you just make the rebuild so much harder on yourself. So yeah, I hope that Spurs, stick to their word, Dave.
Absolutely spot on. You're adding to the problems rather than taking them off if you sell Harry Kane. And for me, if you're going to do this, you got to do this early to give Ange Postecoglou time to build a new way of attacking, a new way of system. Because you take Kane out, you have to build. So you have to implement new patterns of plays, this, that, and the other. So it's a huge loss if we do lose him. But look, Jack, the media has been at this for years, constantly trying to drive a move from him. Gary Neville tried with the overlap. They're constantly writing stories about this guy. He's come out before and said some of the stories about him aren't true. So who knows, what to sort of, how to take this right now. But look, as King Huddle says, my best friend, Harry Redknapp, he did come out in an interview today and said that as far as he's aware, that Harry Kane ain't going nowhere. So, I trust Harry Redknapp's judgment. Look, I don't know what Bayern Munich are doing. I mean, 80 million isn't testing the result. We're not selling for anything less than 100 million. So I think it'd be a different story if they came back with the 100 million. I think then, Tottenham have something to think about, or Daniel Levy, I think, might end up considering. But the reality is, Jack, everybody in football has their price. Just no one has met Harry Kane's price or what Daniel Levy's price of Harry Kane is yet. And until they do, it's all paper talk and it's all hearsay.
And also, just quickly, too, if Harry Kane has told Daniel Levy or has indicated to Daniel Levy in some manner that he'd be willing to leave this summer, I don't think that matters at all to Daniel Levy. I think it's Daniel Levy's decision at the end of the day, because he's seen that he can keep Harry Kane, and Harry Kane eventually turned it around once Nuno was sacked. Antonio Conte came in. Harry Kane ended up being one of the best strikers for the rest of the season, despite that huge part where he wasn't playing for the team and wasn't showing up for us. So I don't know. I think Daniel Levy has gambled in the past with this situation. He won, and he showed to be the victor. And I think he's confident again to see if he can convince Harry Kane. I know everybody's saying it's a really risky game, but he did do it last time, Daniel Levy, and he actually proved to convince him. We'll see if he could do it this time. It's even more risky, I think, than it was last time with the Man City situation, but he still showed that he could convince Harry Kane to still turn it around and actually start playing for us. So I don't know. I think what we want in an ideal world is for him to come out like Sonny did. I just feel like it's slightly different because Sonny's a bit older. Sonny also doesn't have interest from teams like Real Madrid or Bayern Munich right now. But of course, what we all want as Spurs fans, though, is just for these sagas to end, because I'm tired of seeing TalkSport use this as their material each and every day. I'm tired of seeing thumbnails everywhere about why Harry Kane needs to be sold and why he needs to move on from Tottenham. I'm tired of everybody basically talking about it. I want there to be some decision of some kind. I want him to stay, but it is getting tiresome. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's getting boring. It's happening every summer, but you got to understand, when you've got world-class players on your books, they come in demand. Yep. What I will say, Jack, where you spoke about it's a risk maybe keeping him here beyond, and there's a chance that he might sign with a domestic rival. Look, if you don't take risks, you don't get reward. Everything you do in life is risky. So, I'm sick of being plain Jane's, boring old Tottenham shit, everything else. Let's start taking some risks. Vicario was a risk compared to David Raya. Get him in. Van de Ven will be a bit of a risk. We're bringing him in. Fuck it. Let's double down on it, triple down on it, and let's take the risk with Harry Kane. I also believe that Ange Postecoglou believes that he'll be able to get this guy to sign. And on this occasion, I hope Daniel Levy stands by his word and becomes more stubborn than ever before.
Yeah. Let's just hope that his head isn't turned too much. And also as well, despite, like I said, I think we're very thankful, though, that at least it's not 2 stars that are rumored out the door, because that would have been absolutely dreadful to deal with, seeing both our stars be rumored away. And we're very thankful for Sonny's loyalty. That's for sure.
Just quickly, Checkmate says, please don't complain if it backfires, okay? I won't. In fact, I'm still waiting for everyone to come back and apologize to me 2 years ago when they said we should sell Harry Kane. He doesn't want to be in it. And then both seasons since he's finished club, or all the seasons since he's finished the club's top scorer across all competitions. So, in fact, I'm still waiting for apologies. But believe me, I won't complain. I'd rather us keep him.
Christian Romero, everybody, he's getting some interest from Juventus. It's come from Gaston Edul, an Argentinian insider for the Argentinian national team. It's hard to know if this is coming from Romero's camp it's hard to know if this is just kind of BS. And Juventus, yeah, they might be interested and they might like Christian Romero, but it's going to be expensive to buy him back all of a sudden. So I don't know. Like if they throw 70 million, I guess, at us, would you take it, Dave? Maybe that's my question. I mean, I don't think I would. But if that's what I think Juventus are going to have to do, they're going to have to basically give us back all the money that we paid for him.
Yeah, 100%. Look, maybe this could be a legit, and that's why Dier's staying. Who knows? But look, Jack, I'll be honest. I wouldn't accept anything for him. I like Romero. I don't get why we're so quick to have these discussions about Romero, but then people go silent on the likes of Dier and stuff like that, and that's why the club think it's okay to keep them sort of players around. So for me, I like Romero. I wouldn't accept anything for him. He was our best defender last year. He's brilliant on the ball. He gets stuck in. He embodies what I want to see in a Spurs jersey. Has he got stuff to learn to his game? Of course he does. Who doesn't? You're not a perfect player until you're 29 or your name is David Harris. But until then, he still has bits to learn. But I wouldn't accept anything for him. We're trying to improve the situation, not make it worse. So it makes no sense selling him and creating another issue.
Yeah, I doubt Juve have the money to pay for him like most people are saying. I think it would take a serious. And if Romero wants to leave, I mean, it's not going to be Juventus that are going to be able to pay what it would take to get him out of here. That's for sure.
For sure.
Harry Winks, last bit of news to finish on. Finish with some dessert. This is coming from the likes of Luca Bendoni from DiMarzio. I'm sure it's probably moved even further since I saw this bit of news, but he said Leicester City are completing paperwork to buy Harry Winks on a permanent deal from Tottenham, 4-year contract to be signed in the coming hours. As per Sky Sports, Leicester will pay £10 million, while Maddison is joining Tottenham for £40 million. They've decided to spend the $10 million on Harry Winks. Not a great job so far in terms of trying to replace James Maddison, I would say, Leicester City. That's definitely way too much to be paying for the guy. I don't know what's going on over at Leicester. I think that's a really poor move by them, that they could actually, because even if they feel like Harry Winks is the guy they need, there was no need to pay 10 million. That seems insane to be paying 10 million for him. I think I wouldn't offer anything more than 2 or 3. So I don't know, Dave. I mean, we're absolutely going to be popping the champagne after this one to see this over the line. He's a guy that I actually thought we were going to rip up the contract for originally. That was sort of, I didn't think he would be going for this sort of fee. I actually got proven wrong, I think, too, also with him, because last season I said that he wasn't going to go for anything, and no one would dare pay more than more than 2 or 3 million. Maybe I was proven right last year, but I sort of said kind of close to the same thing this year. I didn't think there would be anyone willing to pay more than 2 or 3 or 4 million for him. I actually thought it would be like a Cremonense or like a, I don't know, like an Angers or like something like that would be going after him. But it's Leicester City have decided to spend 10 million of the 40 million we gave them for Maddison on Harry Winks. So best of luck to them.
Do you know what? This made my day. This made my absolute day seeing this guy gone. Look, nice guy, around the place, Tottenham lad, fair enough. But reality is just not good enough. And I said all along, Championship, people were saying, Dave, you're harsh. Looks like I was right. Looks like I was spot on about Harry Winks. He's found his level. It is the Championship. No one in Serie A wants him. No one in La Liga, this, that, and the other. And it's no surprise, And look, I'm just delighted to see him gone. I'm with you. I'm shocked to see us get 10 million. I said yesterday, I thought maybe 10 million max, but to see us actually hit the 10 million mark. And I think it's, it's 8 million pounds with 4 million on add-ons if they get promoted, which actually brings it to 12 million. So in effect, you're sort of getting Maddison for about 28 to 30 million. So it's a brilliant piece of business. Good to have him off the wages. It didn't make sense paying his wages when he's not contributing anything to the first team, which means they're freed up and we can put them resources elsewhere. And look, it's just good to be done with the saga. Just good to be done with it. He's not good enough, never was. I'm glad to see him gone, Unfortunately, the way where we're going, Jack, you don't have time or room for nice guys in this project. And I'm just glad to see him gone. It's one that should have been gone fucking years ago, if you want me to be brutally honest.
I think it's a difficult one, because I see how a lot of people are saying you can't be too harsh on him because he's one of our own and he still loves Spurs. I get that. But I also think he's been a guy that's not necessarily been, how would I put this correctly? Like, he's been a bit spoiled, I think, at Spurs. Like he's had a lot given to him. He's had contracts handed to him that I don't think he necessarily deserved or necessarily earned. He's sort of been praised by the fan base, I think, a bit too much at times.
Yeah.
He's been living off of what were great performances, but living off of like single performances that people would reference and not then reference all the other games where he's let us down completely. He's always been a backup and has always been a squad player, but never really was good enough when he actually did step into things. I think he probably was hampered severely by an injury at one stage in his career that probably did maybe affect his trajectory and affect maybe his movements and his confidence in what he can do. But at the end of the day, we're years down the road from after that injury, and he hasn't ever, I guess, to a lot of people, really fully recovered from it. And so we just have to accept that he wasn't ever going to be what I guess Pochettino had envisioned or what other people had envisioned. And it felt like we weren't really able to accept that or really come to terms with that. It just took a long time, I think, for people to come to face facts with Harry Winks and that he wasn't good enough and that he was just an academy prospect that I guess just never really hit maybe the original sort of heights that we anticipated. And let's be frank, this could be something that we have a conversation with few years down the road with a Skip or a Troy Parrott or players like that too, right? That have come from the academy. Like I think a Troy Parrott could be somebody we'll have this conversation with.
Yeah.
Who knows? Other guys. So
Look,
I think, yeah, that's all I
I
have to
don't
say.
buy this nicety, Jack. Or this. We've got to be nice to him. I mean, a few performances, first of all, would have been nice, but also, out in Vitesse, rather than just owning up to it, questioning what's going on, coming out and being honest and speaking to the fans. He blamed the away crowd, blamed the pitch, the weather, the referee, etc., etc. When he was out in Sampdoria, he done a piece where he blamed the club, for his injuries, etc., etc. And it's like, okay, but when are you going to take onus for how your career's panned out? When are you going to take the onus? So this club is, this guy has scapegoated the club in order to make himself look better. So I'm not too quick to forget that either. And
Yeah,
someone
good point.
like him should never have to say that he's had for the performances that he's putting on the football pitch. He's had that one great night against Real Madrid. Brilliant. But that doesn't make a player, and it doesn't make me love a player either. I like a player that's consistent. I like a player that does it on a weekly basis, or at least tries to do it on a weekly basis. Plus, if he loved Tottenham that much, why did he go hiding in so many games he played in?
And also, why did he like J Club TV or J Cub TV? It says why did he like posts about Kane going to Bayern and Pep defeating us in that 4-2? Like everybody caught him for liking some posts about Spurs failing this season and things like that. He's been a very petty player, and I think he was a very spoiled player at Spurs. And I think I'll leave it at that because I don't feel like I need to attack the guy anymore now that he's gone. But like I said, I don't see the reason for niceties too, Dave. I don't see the reason to be nice to him because of reasons like that. I mean, if he is from our academy, if he does love Spurs, why was he, like you said, throwing his toys out of the pram when he was given opportunities against Vitesse in the Conference League, when he did know that that is his level, and he also hadn't proven himself in a long time. So why does he just feel like minutes are just given to him, against the top opponents? And also as well, he basically threw previous managers under the bus and tried to sort of start things against them, and has always been a guy that I think sort of expected things to be given to him, I think, honestly, at this football club. And maybe I'm reading too much into him, but it does feel like his trajectory has been that. Like I said, he was given contracts that I don't understand why they were given to him. He's been, I think, a bit coddled by the fan base, and maybe it's just big wake-up calls are now coming his way. But to be fair to him, a £10 million move to Leicester City is much better than what I anticipated for his future. I really did think that there would be nobody that would be in for this guy in the Premier League, let alone actually the Championship, paying that much money for him. But Leicester City right now are a club that are making a lot of decisions that are not the right decisions, and this could actually end up being another one of them. But yeah, I don't understand the reason for niceties either with the way that he's behaved at times.
There's no need. I've never even understood people that have defended this guy over the years. At the end of the day, I've had a lot of people arguing with me over Harry Winks, this, that, and the other. Reality is he's found his level. He's just not good enough, and that's
He's
it.
entitled. I agree, Neil. He was entitled.
Yeah, like the thing is, we can't keep making excuses for players not performing. It's not the way you do it in the Premier League. You don't do that. You got to get on players' backs for not performing. Otherwise, they don't have any incentive to go and actually, find out why it's happening and put things right. And at the end of the day, I feel sorry for players who haven't been given a chance that deserve it. You know, I don't feel sorry for guys that have had numerous opportunities over a number of years, has blocked up the pathway for other people coming through, has made excuses for losing instead of actually, talking about wanting to win at Tottenham Hotspur. No niceties, don't feel sorry, found his level, should have been done a long time ago. There's no room for sentiment in football.
Faz Radfar says, choose the best news of the day. Winks out or Maddison in. Winks, I had no fear was going to crack into this team. Like, I think everybody knew he was going to be out the door this summer. We all knew he's one of the first ones on the list probably to be shown the door. So is this much of a surprise? No. 10 million pounds, though, that is something that is honestly, like, maybe this is the best news of the day, because I just thought he would be one of, if I were to predict anybody to have his contract ripped up, I actually thought it was going to be Harry Winks that was going to have his contract ripped up, or them come to some sort of mutual agreement, and then he sort of sees his way out to whatever club of his choice. But 10 million pounds from Leicester City, I think, is one of the worst transfers that might be this window. And hopefully, I don't know. I don't care if I get proven wrong. He's not a Spurs player anymore, but I do think that's probably one of the worst bit of business done this summer by Leicester. I think that's a huge overpay. I don't think he's proven ever to be worth 10 million pounds. And even at his heyday with Spurs, I mean, was he really even worth 10 million pounds? So I don't know. Yeah, Dave, I think probably the Winks news maybe, but like Maddison actually helps us for the future. It's tough. I'm going to say maybe Maddison just because it actually helps us for the future, and Winks wasn't going to really play much of a role anyway. So
I'll be honest. I think both of them combined is the best news, to be honest, because it's sort of a handing over the guard, right? You've got one player who's been there, tried to do it, failed, on his way out, and you've got a guy in that we've been tracking for so long to bring in here that will actually add something. And he's coming in. But also in terms of England, Winks is out in the England team. James Maddison is coming in on the periphery. So, it's a complete changing of the guard. I think all in all, I think it's the sign of the times where we're at, where some of these players are out and we're getting new boys in. And I think when you look at it both together, it's absolutely brilliant. You're getting a guy out on 50k a week who offered nothing, and you're bringing in a guy who walks straight into the first 11. For what, 30 million? Because we're getting 10 million back off Harry Winks. I'll be honest. I don't even think Harry Winks is going to survive in the Championship. You're not protected there like you are in the Premier League.
No.
In terms
and
of
Leicester City are desperate to get back into it.
Yeah, a bit more physical as well. And the guy, ever since he's 22, he's had injuries. Big risk. How many games are they going to get out of him? Let's wait and see. But good to see him out, and great to see Maddison in Faz Radfar. I'm sure you'd enjoy seeing Maddison at the stadium next year rather than Harry Winks, my man.
I think Maddison's the cold glass of Coca-Cola that Dave's going to be enjoying later, and Winks is the cigar. Winks is the cigar. Dark Side G says, finally, Mr. Sideways Pass with high wages is out the door. I didn't even know what wages he was on, but I imagine they were way too much for what we've been giving him. There are a lot of players here, though, Dark Sun G, for what they actually are quality-wise, are on just tremendous wages. It's just far above what they will be on in the future, I imagine. That's probably why they've been so hard to shift, is because they know the wages that they're on at Spurs are bigger than any wages they'll get any time elsewhere after their time at Spurs. Davinson Sanchez is a perfect example. I don't think anybody's going to pay him what he's being paid at Spurs right now to be sitting on the bench. Same thing with Eric Dier as well. Eric Dier's paycheck that he's been getting here is going to be far greater than what he'll ever get after Spurs. And so they're going to be clinging on to it and holding on to it as much as they can. Harry Winks, I'll just say it again, Dark Sunji, I am just shocked that anybody would pay 10 million for him. I'm happy that they paid 10 million for him, but I seriously do see this as, even if people disagree with me on my assessment of Harry Winks, I think they would accept that 10 million is absolutely overpaying for this guy. So honestly, 100%. Best of luck to Leicester City. Best of luck.
100%. I mean, Dax and Gima, man, ever since we started speaking to each other, me and you have been back and forth about Harry Winks, about getting him gone. I mean, the day has finally come. I'm absolutely buzzing. Dax and G, and I'd say you are, how long have we been talking about this? What, 2 years, 3 years now at this point? And the time has finally come. Hopefully more follow out the door after Dark Sun G. But it's a good day. It's a good day. This guy was never good enough. And it's just, you just got to stop with these charades now that keep happening about backing guys that just let you down all the time. I just want to take up one comment quickly because someone's not very happy with our comments on Harry Winks, and he says, listen to Flatcap and Dave. They have nothing but contempt for Winks. These men are so full of hate. I mean, ironically, you don't talk about the praise we have for Emerson, the praise we do for Kane, Son, Porro, people like that, players that actually come into the club and perform. I guess that doesn't suit the point you're trying to make, I suppose. But next time when you're going to make an observation like that, just please be a bit more balanced and just be honest with it. You know, you hear us praise a lot of players just because this is a player I don't like. But also, I'm pretty sure I seen you in the chat earlier on saying we should sell Kane. But here you are backing up Harry Winks. There's a comma further up. And this is the actual problem with Tottenham Hotspur, that this shit is happening. We're trying to push out a guy that does stuff for Tottenham, but then we give these guys all the excuses. You know, we can sit here and blame the club for it, but if fans are happy with this shit as well and are doing this, wanting this player out the door even though he's done stuff and backing up players who haven't, that's also a part of the problem. Me, what I would say to you is, if you like Harry Winks, reevaluate what is a good footballer.
Bravo,
it just annoys me that someone they're so quick to go, these men are so full of hate, but you will never mention the praise I give so many other players for actually doing the job they're paid to do.
The only channel really that showed any sort of backing for Emerson, one of the only channels that stood by Pedro Porro, one of the only channels that stood by Højbjerg, Bentancur, especially when Bentancur first came in, you know, stood against the Juve rejects. We were celebrating those signings. So absolutely, Dave, absolutely spot on there. Spot on there. And also, Dark Sun G says he cost us that 3-3 against West Ham and the 5-4 Everton FA Cup. I'm forgetting, actually, even the FA Cup. West Ham one, I think, is imprinted at everybody's brain. I think everybody knows that one. I mean, you just have the image in your head, the West Ham, moment where he didn't close down Lanzini. Weirdly, maybe because I've just suffered so many painful defeats, Dark Sun G, I'm kind of at a loss for the Everton game. I feel like I remember Davinson Sanchez grabbing the brace, and I remember Richarlison being a real nuisance in that game and really actually hating Richarlison in that game because he was a real pain in the ass. But I don't know. I don't remember just Winks in that game. I imagine just maybe not a great performance. I'm actually forgetting maybe what sort of crime he might have committed in that game.
The Everton game, look, it's probably missing a tackle, pulling out of a tackle, or a misplaced sloppy pass. I mean, they were requisite in Harry Winks' games. Look, the one against West Ham was just unforgivable for me. I mean, that's a game where if you're a Spurs lad, I mean, you throw your body on the line, not make a half-ass attempt as is. And if he would have just got his clearance right in the first place, he wouldn't have had a chance to get the goal. So it was double jeopardy for me. And, he didn't want to put his body on the line for a block. Unforgivable. You see on Sunday League, amateurs throwing everything they've got in front of the ball. So for someone that's paid 50, 60K a week, I mean, I don't understand why I can't expect him to do it. Apparently you're not able to, but that's what he should be doing. And for me, ever since then, was never, ever going to get back to my good books. It's completely unforgivable. Dark Sun G, if you can, just remind me on the Everton one. I'm surprised I don't remember it, to be honest with you, but just jog my memory. Let me know, my man. Put it in the comments and I'll bring it up, brother.
I would say Middlesbrough is one that comes to mind. There are plenty of FA Cup exits and, League Cup exits that I can recall. And also the Conference League. Like, he was shocking in the Conference League. I remember even he was a part of the NS Mura result as well. Leipzig, I remember Leipzig. He played in that game, wasn't helping us out. I don't know. I'm just, it feels like Dark Sun G, I think things are just moving too quickly, man. Like, I feel like I need time to actually grip over, like, James Maddison in, Winks out. It's all happening in a day. It's kind of crazy. These are just too much for me, actually. These are just types of moves that I just don't expect at all from Spurs. The type of ruthlessness, the amount of money we're even getting for it. Like I said, I think I'm just going to wake up sometime soon from this dream. But seriously, I just don't recognize my club right now with some of these moves. Seriously.
He says that he played for 30 minutes and gave Bernard the 5th goal. I'll be honest with you, my man, I can't 100% remember that 5th goal. I know the game you're referencing. I actually believe Davinson Sanchez scored 2 headed goals for us that night, if I remember correctly. I just can't remember that one. But Dark Sun G, I mean, look, this guy's been costing us games forever. And even if he doesn't make a mistake that directly leads to a goal, he doesn't do anything to affect games and doesn't do anything to try and go and win the ball back either. I remember Bayern Munich 7-2, having him in the middle. I knew we were going to get slapped when he was in the middle. Watch how many shots he backed off and let them shoot. Ironically, we still see some Spurs players do that to this day. Must be a trait. They all get together. This is how you defend. Absolutely ridiculous. And look, I'm just glad to see it gone. And let's get more of the other problem players out the door. I know people may go, Dave, you're a hater. The reality is I just want what's best for my football club. I've come to the end of my tether of watching players that are not doing the basics. Basics out of possession, which is running, closing people down, and working your ass off to get that ball back. On the ball, just simple controlling the ball and passing it, dropping into positions to look to get onto the ball, not moving away from it, hiding away. I'm sick of seeing that down the last 3-4 years. And a lot of these guys have had more than enough opportunities. And no longer am I accepting it. And I'll call these guys out every single day until they're out of the football club or I see better on the football pitch. I've been waiting 3 years, so I don't think I'm going to be seeing any better on the football pitch anytime soon. And I'm just glad that these guys are finally going so that we can get guys in and we can start moving in a positive direction. That's all I want. I'm sick of watching players make excuses for not performing. I'm fed up of it.
Getting players out the door, Dark Sun G, is just as important this summer as getting players in the door, because you get players out the door, it creates more space in the squad, and also creates that need then for Spurs to actually go after real players that we've been needing for years, and players that we probably needed 2-3 seasons ago. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're getting shipped out, and that means that new players, guys that can actually do the job that we've been asking this whole time, can come in. And it looks like as well, Dark Sun G, SH Spurs here seems to recall the moment much better than we are at this moment in time. So at least he knows exactly what you're referencing. Big up, my friend. And there was a comment from David Clark earlier, Dave, that I know you wanted to answer. And he says, Dave, can you answer my question here? Why would Maddison come to an 8th place, no European place team with no Kane, Spurs with also no Kane? It just doesn't make sense. I think he knows, James Maddison being, that Kane is staying next season. What are your thoughts?
Look, I'm of a very similar sort of
opinion as David here.
It doesn't make sense that he would come here if he knew Harry Kane was leaving. I think he is under the opinion that Harry Kane is going to be kept around because he knows, if he's feeding Richarlison just isn't as ice cold as Harry Kane is up front. And that's just the stark reality of it. So, as much as he can provide, he needs a player to put the ball in the back of the net to get his assist stats up. He needs a player up front that can hold up the ball and lay it off, stuff like that. That's so that he can get further up the pitch and he can help in terms of goals, this, that, and the other. And there's a better chance of him making the England squad with Harry Kane here, or rather than going anywhere else. And I think that's ultimately why he pushed for the move for Tottenham. I also seen reports that Newcastle weren't willing to match his 170 grand a week wages. I can understand. I would say a lot of that squad are on. I think you'd be surprised on some of the wages some of them Newcastle players are on. I think they'd be relatively low compared to what people think. So maybe bringing him in would have completely broke their wage structure, this, that, and the other. But look, if you're Maddison, Davey, why wouldn't you want to come to Tottenham knowing there's a Euros at the end of the season? It brings him back to the Premier League. But also, it means Harry Kane can carry him straight into the England team without any questions asked.
Proven chemistry.
I think he signed on the dotted line thinking Kane's staying.
And if they have that proven chemistry this season, like you said in the past, and I'm stealing your idea, Dave, Gareth Southgate could not ignore something like that. He would be outcasted by, if he isn't already sometimes, by the fan base, if he did not bring James Maddison on that plane to the Euros. Because if it ends up being the case that Kane does stay this season and they form a great partnership, you would have to bring him on. And I think James Maddison has always been maybe feeling a bit left out of the Gareth Southgate squad, because I think Southgate hasn't always been the biggest fan of him or like something like that. He's always found a reason to leave him out. And this would be a way where you just can't leave him out. You just can't ignore it. So I think I'm kind of in your boat though, Dave, where David Clark, where I think James Maddison has been probably told that Harry Kane is staying. And if he was told that he wasn't, I think he was then maybe sold the dream that he could actually be sort of the new big face of Tottenham. Not that he would himself replace Harry Kane by himself, but he would kind of be the new big guy next to Sonny and next to Richarlison and all the other big sort of name players. So there's that too. He is still gonna have a big sort of a superstar status here. That's for sure.
Sure. Big up, Davy Clark. I've started a couple of questions as well throughout the show. We'll just go and give some of them some quick answers because, sometimes we don't always get to every question. So I'm going to start starring a couple during the shows and we'll take 2 minutes at the end to maybe give them some quick answers for you guys. We've got Shawnee Maddox says, would you guys try and bring Dorrington in the squad and let go of Tanganga? I mean, it should have been done last season with the amount of horrific defending that was on offer for us. Should have been brought in last season. But for me, yes, 100%. The guy's quality on the ball. He's confident. What I've watched of him for the under-18s, under-21s, never gets caught out defensively. And he's a big lad as well. And if you're good enough, you're old enough. And I think you might get an opportunity this season somewhere along the line under Ange Postecoglou. You should be getting ahead of Dier and Sanchez anyway.
Tanganga, holds that homegrown spot from the academy, which is a very, specific type of homegrown role. I think Dorrington is his replacement. I think you're absolutely right, Sean Maddox. I think get him in here as Tanganga's replacement and see if he can fill the potential that Tanganga was supposed to. But that's not saying that Tanganga completely failed his potential. I think he was used as a bit of a homegrown pawn, actually, at times, which is always sad. Michael Coleman says, hi, guys. Maybe I've just lost the plot here, but what are your thoughts on Dier playing a number 6 role in Ange ball? Michael, I understand where your heart is at. You're thinking if Dier has to stay. I think you're just thinking, right? If Dier has to stay, what sort of position could he operate? And you're thinking as a center back, we know that won't work. Could he play technically like a backup role as like a number 6? No. I think Dier's passing range is also really overrated, actually. I think Longley showed to be a much better player on the ball than Dier was by a country mile. And a lot of people criticize Longley, right, for not being good enough. And I think they're both not great defenders, but Longley is significantly better on the ball than Dier is. So I don't think Dier really is worth keeping at all for any reason. And it's certainly not his defending. And I actually think on the ball, he's very overrated. You see how many loose touches he'll have, how slow he is on the ball. We always complain about how he's always walking and always taking 20 years to pick out a pass that ends up not being of any real consequence. So I don't know. I think Dier is, like I said, extremely overrated on the ball. So that would mean if he's playing by himself, as a number 6 and also to break presses and be that guy that you can give the ball into when under pressure, not the right guy to be doing it. Sorry.
You know what? Respect the question, right? Respect the question. Considering he obviously knows that I'm not a huge fan of Eric Dier, so I respect the question. Look, this is another thing we have to stop doing at Tottenham. If a player doesn't work out in one position, which is the original position we bought him for, you got to stop trying to find a position for him in teams. If he's not good enough, he's just not good enough. The guy played in the defensive midfield role under Pochettino, was not good enough. Nowhere near it. Then we give him, okay, let's turn him into a centre back. He becomes even worse. So now we're going to give him a third opportunity in a position that he's already shown he's not good enough in. It just doesn't make any sense for me. I get your question is probably posed off, like Jack said, if he's staying. Well, if he's staying, throw him a pair of mittens, a nice cleaning cloth, and send him out to clean the canteen tables for Doris.
It's a mistake if you keep him around. So that's just how you look at it. Phil says, do you think that we are getting these signings in quick with Kane privately putting in a transfer request and the club keeping it on the low? Micky van de Ven is another Jan Vertonghen in the making. I think we covered a lot of that, Phil, with the Jan Vertonghen and Micky van de Ven. What I would say, if you haven't heard the podcast, we spoke about this sort of tinfoil hat theory that you have here at length. And Dave is kind of on the same line of thinking. At least he sort of also has this on the back of his mind that it could be a possibility Harry Kane is actually already basically out the door and Spurs are spending quickly and spending well because they know that he's out the door and they need to sort of break it to Spurs fans at some stage. And you might as well break it to them when they already have a few signings in. And it looks like, we have, something to get excited about. But I'm going to give, I guess, us the benefit of the doubt that, we have, stuck by our word and we're not letting him go. But it is possible, absolutely possible. And you wouldn't put it past Spurs at all. Wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, this is, like you said, Jack, it's a discussion we had at the end of the podcast, and it's sort of something that crept into my mind late last night when I was listening to James Blunt going through my breakup with Harry Kane. Are we, the way when you go through a breakup and your thoughts spiral, it sort of got to me where it was like, are we spending the Kane money now? Getting our players in and getting him in done before people know that we've got that money and try to extort us. It has crossed my mind. But look, we've been told he ain't going anywhere. And if my best friend Harry Redknapp reckons he's not, I'll take his word for it.
And then also Dark Sun G says, this is pain, not hate. Winks is an illness. Winks is an illness. So more of them out. I think Winks is just one of the problem mentalities in the squad. Of course, he's been out the door, on loan and everything, but you even see how he behaved when he was out on loan, Dark Sun G. He's liking posts, when it came to Spurs' demise and Spurs' failures. He seemed to be very petty towards the way that maybe he was shown the door, when at the end of the day, it was kind of his fault that he was shown the door. He just wasn't good enough. Just feel like he's a problem mentality, along with a lot of other players that are a problem mentality in the squad. And it's good to have them out of here. And at the end of the day, people are saying, I guess, if we're being harsh on Winks, I mean, he was being harsh on us with some of his performances, and he was being harsh on us with some of the performances that he served us up, and the manner in which he also, as well, like plenty of players, not just him, didn't exactly take any accountability for some of the performances that we've seen him and plenty of other players put out there. It's not just Winks at the end of the day, but Winks is sort of an example, or sort of a, how would you put it? An example of the greater problems that we've seen at Spurs. And he's checked a lot of the boxes of the greater problems we've had at Spurs, not having a talented enough of academy with actual good homegrown players coming out. And so we've had to keep players around like him that just weren't good enough for homegrown reasons, but then also players that didn't seem to really be fighting for any sort of real spot in the first team. He was sort of content with kind of just having minutes given to him every now and again. And then when he didn't play well, he acted like he needed more minutes in order to actually play better. So it was this weird, like hypocritical situation where he wasn't really pushing hard enough to actually get minutes that he felt like he deserved. But at the same time, when actually given minutes and he wasn't taking them, he was saying that he needed more minutes to actually, be the player that, he feels like he can be. So I don't know. He's just a problem mentality, along with a lot of other problem mentality players like Dier, etc., that also need to be moved on. It's not just Winks.
Yeah. And I think the key thing there from Dark Sun G's word is pain. It's not hate. It's not hate. It's pain. I'm letting all my pain out that Winks has caused me. And I'll double down on it again. People say, Dave, you can come across harsh. Okay, grand. Well, then let's start talking about the money that he takes out of Tottenham's bank account for the performances he puts in. Then let's start talking about harsh.
Chunky Cheeks, love the name, my friend. And he says, Bruno Guimaraes is on £120,000 and Newcastle didn't want to blow it out, or maybe blow the wage bill out of the water. I think, too, is also maybe what Chunky means, is that if you sign Maddison on £170,000 a week and you already have Bruno Guimaraes on £120,000, he's
going straight up there for 200.
Yeah, like he's going to demand for a big new contract, and it just sort of unsettles the squad, I think, a little bit. And you have guys that have proven themselves, like Guimaraes, like he's proven himself at that club, and he's proven to be one of the best midfielders in the world, in my opinion. And James Maddison is also one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, just like Guimaraes is, but he hasn't proven himself at Newcastle. So for him to get all of a sudden bigger wages than everybody else and be the big new guy, it would probably, upset the squad a little bit. For a squad that's been playing quite well, it's not like Maddison is walking into a team that's been losing. He'd be walking into a team that's been winning, and then he takes all the wages as well. People probably wouldn't be happy with that. And I think ultimately Bruno Guimaraes is sort of their future player. He's their long-term player that they probably see more, priority in than James Maddison. And it would be like Tanguy and Ndombele when he came into this team, on $200K a week, maybe sort of thing. So they just don't want to do that.
Yeah, 100%. You'll get so many players that are like, well, hang on here, we got you to this position, this, that, and the other, pay me what I'm worth. And it just creates a problem. And then it puts Newcastle in a position where you're paying 200K, 300K a week with only one, with going back into the first time for 20 odd years in Champions League football. I mean, not a really sustainable business model. And they're trying to do it smartly. And that's why, I think there is some rumors that they wouldn't. Maybe they've gone and spoke to Maddison before they even went to Leicester and be like, okay, what sort of wages are we looking? Maddison says 170, and they're just like, well, I mean, Bruno Guimaraes isn't even on that. Tamale's coming in, he's not even going to be on that. So it just creates unnecessary squad problems if they do that. So I thought that would be the case. Thanks for cheering that, clarifying that, Chunky Cheeks. And also, Jazz Jones put it in the comments earlier on as well. So big yourselves up. Jacko, any more surprising news
No.
that's going to piss me off before we end?
No, I don't. I haven't seen anything on my phone, and maybe I'll avoid it. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Well, if there's any more news that comes or breaks, we'll be there tomorrow to bring them to you. Please check out the podcast, because some of the things that we spoke about today, we spoke about at length with Jerome, and so please do check that out. I think there was some really good bits and conversations on sort of a lot of the topics that we did speak about today in this news bit. And also look out as well some James Maddison scout report, and as well Dave's version of James Maddison. He's going to be the guy welcoming him on behalf of the Irish Hotspur as well, giving him that official welcome. So look out for that too, for some upcoming videos.
100%. We don't worry. Any new signings that coming in the door, or any major links for that, don't worry. Scout reports, and then also followed by Welcome to Tottenham with our quick thoughts, quick summary on the deal. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But look, with the news coming in thick and fast, we've got to go and prepare the Maddison stuff now. We've also probably going to have to do Micky van de Ven. So me and Jack have to get out of here. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate that you choose this channel to tune into. It doesn't go unnoticed. All your support, tuning in, liking, subscribing, engaging. I'm sure some of you have people badgering you to get off the streams and go and help them with stuff, but you tell them, no, I need it, which I absolutely really do appreciate. So you guys are all legends. Thank you so much for all the support, all you channel members who choose to support us, all you people who choose to support us through Super Chats as well. Massively, massively appreciate it. As we said, your boys rely on the generosity of the people, as we don't have any big wigs that back us. We do it the hard way. We do it the Tottenham way. As always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
In Big Ange, we trust.
In Big Ange, we trust. Welcome, James Maddison, on behalf of the Irish Hotspur.
And the old lad, just to sum it off, says, thank you, David and Jack. Remember, love, not hate. Yeah. Oh, I would choose pain. Remember, pain, not love, I would say, especially when it comes to Winks. But anyway, we're out. Go and enjoy your evening. Maddison in.
See you, everybody.